Today I'm going to be doing another paracord tricks, and I'm going to be talking about how to do, or how I do, my zipper pulls and lanyards for gear. And these are two different methods. They're kind of close, but I'm going to be explaining how I do those, and as well kind of redoing this because I have to redo this. Some of the reasons why it's an awesome idea to do paracord lanyards and primarily zipper pulls like this. If you guys haven't noticed, my backpack, the linchpin is completely decked out in custom ones, and the primary reason I do that is for color coding, and that helps not just me but primarily other people if they need to get something out of my backpack. The linchpin has a lot of zippered compartments, and so it can be very confusing for people to find things in it. And so I have color coded it so that all I have to do is tell people which zipper to look for, and then they can pretty easily find it. That's also really nice to have for any of your medical stuff. Like, I would highly recommend putting like red colored zippers on all of your medical containers, or zippered as well. It does add a level of personalization to it that is really nice. And I found, depending on the application, you can really make these larger or smaller depending on what kind of torque down on some zippers are really hard to get properly closed, and so it's nice to have a nice long zipper pull that you can really close. Anyways, enough explaining with why it's a good idea. There's many other reasons as well. I'm gonna just take this off. Unfortunately, I did have a nice custom zipper on this one, or zipper pull rather, but my dog actually, while she was still young, chewed it off. So I hadn't put one on there for a while because I wanted to make sure that she wasn't gonna just chew the next one off. So it's been a little while, but yeah, that's what that was on there. And when generally I do double zippers, unless it's on a serious compartment that I use a lot, I actually generally use the second zipper. I just don't even put a pull on it, because you can still use these without pulls. They're just a lot harder. But I don't like, sometimes I found myself grabbing the bottom one, because you can't really differentiate unless you were to, of course, do different colors. But you couldn't really differentiate, so I'd find myself pulling like this one, and it would just pull it shut. And so, for the most part, unless I have to, I'll actually generally, if it's a double zipper, just leave it completely, like with no zipper pull on it. Sorry for any wind noise, but for this one, it's going to be kind of easy. Some of these you have to use gutted paracord, and some you have to use like hemostats or some kind of special puller. But since these are so large, what you just want to do is find the zipper pull that you want to work with, and then thread it through. You just want to thread it through whatever. And like I said, sometimes you have to gut the paracord, but generally if you just flatten the tips, it actually will go through most medium to large size zipper pulls pretty effectively. So then the next part you'll want to determine, and for this one I'm just going to be doing a cobra weave, and the reason why I'm doing a cobra weave for this is not just because it's simple, but it's also one of the most durable. You won't see, or I wouldn't recommend using this kind of dragon claw here for a zipper pull, just because the actual weave in and of itself is kind of loose, and you don't want to be putting a lot of pressure on it, because that could cause deformity. The only other weave that I would really recommend for this is the shark jawbone, but that's a little bit more complex, and I'm just going to be sticking to simple and effective here. And so really quickly with this, I forgot to mention how much I'm using here. This is roughly 4 feet, and you want, with the cobra weave, about a foot for an inch, and so this will be about a 4-inch lanyard. This minus this, and that's going to be like that. And then you'll have just some, whatever amount you want here for room. You can make it very close and it won't have much room to play, but generally I like to leave about around 2.5, 3 inches for something this small. Once again, it just goes back to what you personally want and what you're trying to accomplish with that zipper pull. The weave, I'm just going to be doing a simple cobra weave to start it off. Sorry, this thing is really likes to roll around. It's kind of nice to do this with a backpack because it doesn't generally roll around. And sorry I'm not explaining this more thoroughly. If you want a more in-depth showing of the cobra weave, you can either just replay this or just go watch how to do it. There's tons of videos on the cobra weave, but that's all I'm doing here, and you want to make sure you have enough room for that predicted amount of weave here. And so this should be about enough, maybe a little bit more, and you're just going to be weaving down. So this first one will look a little bit weird. That's what it'll look like, but that is what it's supposed to look like, if you guys can see that. I just did the lighting a little bit there, so hopefully you guys can see that. It'll look a little bit weird, but if you just keep doing the cobra weave, it will kind of work itself out. If you want to do something else, like a shark jawbone, you'll have to start with the cobra to set it, and then you'll just do your shark jawbone to the end if you wanted to do something else or something a little bit more elaborate. If you want to do something as elaborate as the dragon claw, you'll have to but stay tuned, because I will be showing the lanyard part, or how I do lanyards, and that's where you can incorporate more complex things such as the dragon claw into a lanyard. But essentially that's pretty much it. You'll just continue to work down your length here, and you'll just get to the end and finish it off as if you were doing a bracelet or doing anything else with the cobra weave, and that is that you'll just literally cut these two ends and fuse them with a lighter, and that'll be it. But that's how I do most of my poles and even some of my lanyards. The largest problem with this particular style of doing a zipper pole or lanyard is that it doesn't very well work when trying to do two colors. So if you want a two-tone like this lanyard here, this style would not, or how I just did this, would not work very well. So that's essentially the entire point of the next part, which I will be showing. But that's pretty much it for this piece. It on this one. I'm just going to cut and light the ends and just fuse them, make it look all nice. It's probably a little bit longer than this particular thing needs to be, but it's always nice to have a full, really nice grip on this, and that's what I really like, is actually being able to have 3 or 2 fingers actually on this lanyard, and it makes it a lot easier. And like I said, if you're trying to really load something out and you really have to get it past a particularly tricky spot, it's really nice to be able to hold on to it nice and firm and shove it past that spot. Though I don't necessarily recommend that. They can be a little bit hard on zippers, but Maxpedition and Camelback can usually take it. To this one, this is a little bit more advanced of a style. It's once again really not that hard to do this one, and this is primarily if you want to integrate 2 different colors. If you notice with that previous one, if you would have tried to do a 2-tone color, the fuse would have had to have been around the zipper area, or where the actual zipper meets, so like right around this area, and I learned that pretty fast. It does not work that well, and so I thought of another way of doing it that's pretty good. This way you're essentially going to make a bracelet, but not actually a bracelet. So the loop that would have gone around a knot and loop bracelet is right here. I've just shrunk it, as you can see, to fit this ring. And the knot I did actually make, and it's important that you make it because that will help keep the core together while you weave this all together. But you can just do a simple overhand knot, and then once you get to the end of your weave, you'll just cut that off, and you can see you'll just fuse it very well and make sure that this gets very thoroughly melted, and then while it's still molten, you're actually going to roll it up on both sides to prevent the weave from coming off of its core. And whatever weave you decide to integrate is pretty much going to dictate how hard this style is. And unfortunately I can't show you guys anything. I really don't want to just remove this lanyard and make another one, but it's along the lines of, like I said, essentially making a bracelet, but making that bracelet onto a ring. And that's what I would recommend if you guys have any of these split rings, to put that as a holder for this loop, and then pretty much cinch it down, and then do your weave, and then end it, like I said, and make sure that there is a knot, because that's going to keep the core together, and then just do whatever weave you want. A little bit more for the fact that it opens up the possibilities of doing things like dragon claw, barracuda, any of the really difficult knots. I think you can even integrate snake knots like this, and I think you could actually do snake knots the other way. The primary reason I don't like snake knots for zipper pulls is because the snake knot, if you guys have ever made them, are really stretchy, and it's very prone to deformity if you really have to ever seriously torque on that. But for lanyards, it's a little bit different. Anyways, guys, so that's pretty much it for these lanyards and zipper pull. That's how I do all my stuff. Once again, it's not very complex, but just kind of interesting stuff. Interesting ways of customizing your gear and making it more durable. I've really been a large fan of the zipper pulls, because like I said, they allow you more grip on your zipper pull and allow you to torque them a lot better. As well, like I said, they add a nice personal touch and can help you color code your items, especially if your packs or whatever you're doing this with is like the linchpin and has a lot of different zippers. It's a very great way to know which zipper or which containers have what in them. And so that's pretty much it, guys, and I'm out.